Hills.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Now, the woes of embattled former sanitation minister Cecilia Abanadapa is deepening tonight as it emerges multiple bank accounts which hold substantial amounts with different currencies have been frozen. The action was taken by the Office of the Special Prosecutor, although the OSP holds the authority to administratively freeze accounts linked to a person of interest. Court approval is necessary to prolong the action. We're getting a bit more exclusive details on this unfolding investigations into the amount of money found in her home following a report which in itself has triggered this controversy over who actually owns that amount. I want to bring in right now my colleague Elton Broby, who's been working his sources and following this for us as he breaks tonight. Elton, thank you very much. And what more are we learning as far as the bank accounts are concerned?
Is that the OSP has frozen some bank accounts belonging to the former sanitation minister, Cecilia Abanadapa. And we are talking about accounts both in local and foreign currency. Now, the OSP, we are told, has currently a motion before a court, and they're hoping to move the motion on Thursday to allow the office to continue to hold on to the seizure and also the freezing of the account. Remember that the OSP some 2 weeks back arrested the former minister for corruption and corruption-related activities when some amount of money, including $1 million, 300,000 euros, and some thousands of Ghana cedis, were allegedly stolen by some house help who worked with the former sanitation minister. Now, she was brought before the OSP for questioning, after which her home was searched. Now, what we are learning this evening is that when the OSP searched the home of the former minister, they uncovered some money and they seized this money as well, and then also went on further to investigate her. And in course of their investigation, came across this, bank accounts belonging to the former sanitation and water minister. Now, the OSP, per the law establishing it specifically at 5959, chapter 38, clause 1, it says, where the special prosecutor considers that freezing of property is necessary to facilitate an investigation or prosecution, the special prosecutor shall, in writing, direct the freezing of the property of a person or entity being investigated or specified property held by a person or entity other than the person or entity being investigated or prosecuted. The special prosecutor shall, within 14 days after the freezing of the property, apply to the court for a confirmation of the freezing. Now, it goes on in chapter 31 of the same act, and it says that where the application is made for freezing order, the court shall issue the order if it is satisfied that the respondent is being investigated for corruption or corruption-related offense. The respondent is charged with corruption or corruption-related offense. And in this case, we know that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is investigating the former sanitation minister for corruption or corruption-related offense. And this is different and distinct from the action taken by the Office of Attorney General. The office is looking into possible stealing and money laundering. So these are two different investigations undertaken by two different bodies, the OSP. In this case, the OSP has taken the step to freeze the bank accounts, both in local and foreign currencies, and also the money they took from the home of Madam Cecilia Abanadapa is still held by the OSP. But per the law, they need to go back to court. So the motion we are learning this evening is asking the court to give them, if you like, confirmation to continue to hold on to the seizure and also the freezing of the account, Evans.
And as we're learning, this is something that should come for consideration by the courts next week.
Yes, next week, Thursday.
Okay, but this freezing of the accounts has been something that the OSP had effected uh, for quite a while. In other words, say Madam Sitadapa has not had access to her accounts for quite some time.
Absolutely. In fact, what we do know is that the OSP took the steps to, put a hold on the accounts, the bank accounts of Madam Cecilia Dapa after the search they undertook in her home. Where now we are learning that they took some money, but we've been probing to establish how much was taken from the home. Our sources is unable to tell us the exact amount, but according to our sources, it's all part of the investigation that they are conducting. Now, furtherance to that, they looked into her bank accounts because of the peculiar nature of the investigation being undertaken by the OS, and that led to the freezing of some accounts. Here also, we are unable to, put a figure on it, but we are told that the account is more than one, and they are in foreign and local denominations.
And of course, we don't know yet what the lawyers for Sidapa's position is on this matter, and whether or not they have objected. But we expect that when this comes up for court consideration, we'll get a clearer picture as to what their position is on this. So there are two things tonight that we're learning: that yes, monies were retrieved from her home, additional amounts. We don't know exactly how much. The OSP has been keeping custody of these amounts and has currently filed a process in court to confirm custody, and also the bank accounts that have been frozen. And Elting, this is all part of the OSP's own investigations into the Cecilia Dapa matter, quite distinct from what the police is doing on the advice of the Attorney General.
Absolutely, Evans. In fact, if you look at the two scenarios, the Attorney General or the police through the Attorney General is looking at possible stealing and, of course, money laundering. Remember that yesterday, some 7 people were put before an Accra court to answer for the charges leveled against them by the police. Indeed, the police, maintained that the amount in question, that's $1 million, belongs to Madam Cecilia Anim-Addo. The OSP is looking at possible corruption and corruption-related activities, whether or not Madam Cecilia Anim-Addo, the money in question were gotten through ill means, or whether she used her office to influence, whether the office was used to, acquire the money in question. So there are various issues that are being questioned. Money laundering and stealing, that is an aspect being pursued by the police and the Attorney General. The OSP own is quite distinct. They are looking at corruption and corruption-related activities relating to the matter in question, the $1 million and the other amount of money involved. And that's how come they've taken the steps to, freeze the accounts.
Thank you very much, Alting, giving us those exclusive details as far as Cecilia Dapa's bank accounts are concerned. Multiple bank accounts in which they found different currencies, all tonight frozen, including monies retrieved from her home. Has been in custody of the special prosecutor, and now processes have been filed in court to confirm both. And this is coming on the back of what we learned yesterday in court, where police prosecutors amended and filed fresh charge sheets just yesterday, and insisted on the face of these charge sheets that the $1 million found in her home belonged to her. And that is interesting, only because the AG's advice in that document that we read from the AG, they had stated that Cecilia Dapa had written a statement in which she had also stated in clear terms, according to the AG's advice, that the $800,000 they found in the box did not belong to her, but belonged to her deceased brother. But I want to quickly read to you what the police prosecutors filed yesterday, which is the very latest, the 4th amendment of the charge sheet. And the only detail that in this charge sheet that agrees and reflects the AG's advice is a separation of the $1 million into two, $800,000 and $200,000. So, quote, particulars of offense for Patience Butche, who and Sarah J. And by the way, Sarah J, we understand, is still struggling to meet the bail conditions. We'll get clarity on what has happened. And she is, as we understand, a nursing mother. Sometime in the year 2022, at Abelinkpe in the Greater Accra region and within the jurisdiction of this court did dishonestly appropriate cash the sum of 800,000 United States dollars, the property of Cecilia Aben-Adapa, and that is what the police prosecutors are still saying. In fact, they move from belonging to, and they're clear now that it's the property of Cecilia Dapa. And they continue where it comes to the 200,000 that again sometime in the year 2022 at Abelinkpe in the Greater Accra region and within the jurisdiction of this court did dishonestly appropriate cash the sum of 200,000 United States dollars. Again, the property of Cecilia Aben-Adapa, and police prosecutors have put this before the court. I want to bring in right now, on the back of what we're learning, the latest freezing of the account, Professor Kwejo Appiagyei-Tiam, who is Associate Professor at the University of Ghana School of Law. Also joining me is Mariada with the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And Lady Prof, let me start with you. So the special prosecutors' actions that they've taken tonight, what's your view on it as far as the legal remit and the authority that they've been granted is concerned? Are they fair and square within what they're allowed to do within the law?
Yes, thank you for having me. The Office of the Special Prosecutor is equated to has the powers of the police as prescribed under the Offences Act, the Criminal and Other Offences Act. And so, in that respect, he has the power of seizure and the power to confiscate properties, especially if he has reasonable suspicion that the property is tainted. And so, in that respect, the property that was seized has to go to court for the court to confirm that indeed the amount of money needs to remain with the OSP to help with investigations. The same with the property that has been frozen. That also needs to be confirmed that indeed the property needs to be continued. Freezing of the property is critical for investigations to be concluded and for prosecutions to start where necessary. And if after a period of time, I think the OSP has 60 days or so to take the case to court for the court to confirm the amount and for the continued seizure. If not, the money has to be returned to the person who the money was taken from. And the act prevents the person whose money was seized and returned to him from suing the office of the OSP. And so, if you look at the OSP Act, clearly they are working within the confines of the law.
And as far as the rights of the individual here in question, Cecilia Dapa, what rights have they got now that this matter, the special prosecutor has now written or applied to the courts to confirm the seizure and the freezing of the accounts?
Well, at this moment, it's a criminal act. And in criminal law, when such situations happen, your rights as a citizen who is alleged to have committed an act, your rights could be curtailed or suspended. And so in this particular situation, the accused person or the suspect doesn't have a particular right to access the property until the court makes a final determination of it. So her right to her property is frozen at the moment. She will not be able to enjoy it. And I was saying, if the special prosecutor doesn't proceed to press charges or to prefer charges and to prosecute the matter within a 60-day time frame, then the property is supposed to return to her. And so that is a right which is suspended for now until, depending on the action that the officer of the special prosecutor will take.
And Mary, give me your quick reaction to what we are learning tonight. It appears the special prosecutors moving very quickly. Rarely have we had this story of recently a cabinet minister who has been forced to resign, having her bank accounts frozen in this particular manner.
Yes, that is true. Good evening, and good evening to your listeners, and good evening to Prof as well. One of the things that civil society has continued to advocate is the fact that we need to have within our space acts of corruption being investigated and prosecuted as quickly as possible without compromising the standards. And we are aware that the Special Prosecutor's Office has in the recent past shown that if given the total support of all stakeholders, they would do a lot of good. Perhaps maybe in this case, we are talking about a sitting minister, so it would be a little surprising, and perhaps many other people had their doubts as to how this would go. But for some of us, we had no doubt whatsoever, knowing that they were already investigating this issue when it came up. And so it's not surprising at all. He could do even more. Now, what we need to all pay attention to is the fact that we need to support the office and ensure that whatever information we have, if indeed it is true that they recovered some more sums of money at her home and then others from a various bank accounts as the leaked information is showcasing. And we need to all be very worried and we need to all pay attention. So this is the time when citizens must be very proactive. Citizens must take their role in the fight against corruption more seriously so that whoever has some information, better particulars, then would send them to the office to support in the work they are currently doing.
Prof, what's your comment on the way the special prosecutor has so far conducted this probe?
Say it again, please.
Your comment on the way the special prosecutor has so far conducted this probe is a very high-profile one.
Yes, I think the special prosecutor has conducted himself very well. He has really proven that he can be an independent person and the office can act independently. Because when this issue came up, people were concerned about. He has shown consistency. He has proven that he is a man of his own and he has the power and the caliber to perform the function. So,
hello, Prof. I'm losing you. If you don't mind repositioning or speaking directly to the phone, I'm struggling to hear. Hopefully better now.
Sorry, is it better?
Yes, it's great. Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I'm saying that he has really shown that he's performing according to the functions of his office. The independence that the office is clothed with is being exercised. And so we applaud him for taking these bold steps, which are in line with what the Act has, the powers that the Act has given him. And we are hoping that it will continue because really it is the way to go and has to make sure that the corruption fight is taken seriously.
And we've seen in the past, though, I mean, when this comes up in court, the past lawyers will have to also, of course, put up a case why they believe the seizure and also the account that has now been frozen isn't the right thing. It comes down to the justification. And again, as you've just explained, the law allows the OSP to hold it, to do so within a specified time, and they have to go to court. I mean, you've applauded him, but then, of course, he has to justify, is it not, that this seizure is in the interest of getting to the bottom of what has happened and is the right thing to do in this matter. I mean, there's a lot still that needs to happen to ensure that the law is upheld here. And it all goes down to the sanctity of the probe that has been done so far and whether they have enough to convince the courts that this is the right course of action.
Definitely. At this point, in terms of procedure, in terms of the necessary first steps to be taken, he has done according to as the law has prescribed. Because if these steps are not taken to cause the seizure of the property which is reasonably suspected to be tainted, anything can happen to their money. So the OSP has to act quickly and timeously to ensure that the money is secured, then followed by going to court by way of notice, so the other party will be notified, so that they can also contest it. So at this point, everything that the OSP has taken procedurally is in order, but the other matters will have to will unfold when the case goes to court, and that is where the other party will also come into to justice, or to find a way to maybe cut into the OSP's steps and decisions taken to know if really he's on the right track or not. But at this point, he's on course.
I mean, Mary at the GIU issued a statement demanding that the probe is thorough. Since then, we've seen that the AG also had given some advice. We've seen the facts as contained in the AG's advice. Yesterday, the police prosecutors were back in court with a fresh charge sheet that has been amended. And the central controversial point of the ownership of the $1 million, they haven't changed their position on that. I mean, considering that the police investigation on the advice of the AG is going on side by side that of the special prosecutor, and we're seeing what the special prosecutor is doing. From you at the civil society level and anti-corruption level, what is your reading of these two very separate investigations? However, both of them have common threats. As in now looking at the source, where do you stand on the police's work on the back of the AG's advice and what we're seeing the special prosecutor doing?
So, Evans, for the work of the police, let me say I had cause to question who we should be believing when it comes to the case involving stealing. And that is where the Attorney General and the police are having their issues. And for me, I really am very excited that the police has kept its stance that the ownership of the money remains with the woman. As to whether they will come back to change their charge sheets to reflect a different phenomena, we don't know. But as at now, what the police has done is to remain focused and continue on that trajectory, that this is what they are doing. And so it's becoming worrying, the role being played by the Attorney General, bringing in contradictory views as to the ownership and how the woman reported. And we have had calls to even look back into time. This issue happened some time back, and the way things are going with it is becoming a little confusing, that somebody has an issue in October and the person only makes their complaint in July. Granted, again, we are now having the state institution, the institution that is supposed to be the attorney of state per Article 88, is coming to say that the woman said this, her brother has also said something else. But the police has been consistent in all their charges from the three that you have mentioned so far, that the owner of the resources remains the Honorable former former Minister of State, Sanitation, for that matter. And so in that case, this is a different trajectory which is being taken. We are particularly concerned about the way the Attorney General is carrying on. However, let me say that one of the things the Attorney General has done that has also brought clarity to this work is the fact that they ask that they decouple the amount, but then the police have shown that that is what they were already doing all this while. Then the next thing that happened, which we would say is good, is the fact that the police should expand the investigation beyond the ceiling and the amount to money laundering. And I believe the OSP's role in this regard is also very clear and explicit. He is to investigate corruption and corruption-related offenses. And so he is the person we should be looking into. And now that we have some semblance of information that they are in court to demand for the freeze order to be maintained so that they can go into all the accounts they have been able to secure, which contain huge sums of money, the statement we have all read. It's in a good direction. For us in civil society, we believe that agencies should collaborate. agencies should work together. And this is one of such instances that we believe that the OSC can lead in looking into the issues of corruption and corruption-related offenses, and where possible, the police will support with the information, and the expeditious release of some of this information would inure to the good of the investigation. And at the end of the day, it is Ghana we are all serving. And so that should be the most significant or the cogent point we should all be articulating. And again, I say that it is Ghana we all want the best for. So if somebody is alleged to have done something that is related to corruption, we see the OSC playing a significant role. So there should be effective interagency collaboration to unearth the facts of this case. That is what the people of Ghana want to see.
Mariada, thank you very much. And she is with the Ghana Integrity Initiative, the local chapter of Transparency International, LA head professor P.J. Tian, who is an associate professor at the University of Ghana School of Law there. And just us been talking, the suspects in the case, one of them, the lawyers for the lactating suspect, Sarah J., are still racing against time to meet that 1 million CD bail bond for her. Augustine Jingfi has been telling John News his aim is to secure Sarah's release and facilitate her reunion with a 6-month-old infant. For days, they have struggled to meet the conditions. He's described the bail conditions as stringent, and that's something we will check for you, whether they've succeeded now in meeting the bail conditions for that lactating mother now to take some relief from the custody that she's currently in, as far as the police is concerned. You want to join us on Newsnight for more on this?
Hey, you ever buy credits where you get up to 20% of your money back before? Make I tell you about Vodafone's demo promo. See, anytime you recharge a demo, you get up to 20%, whether it be short code or your Vodafone cash wallet, or you don't use credit transfer to your number or someone else. And now you be high tech, so you don't use my Vodafone app or any payment app. However you do, Vodafone go send you up to 20% cash back into your Vodafone cash account. We'll reload here, but then you enter. Top up your airtime with 5 Ghana CD or more in Vodafone's demo promotion and receive 20% of your money back straight into your Vodafone cash wallet. Recharge and cash out in the Vodafone demo promotion.
Vodafone, further together.
I've got Bell back and I won't let go.
My name is Nana McBrown. Many people think I get what I want anytime because I am popular. No, that is not true. It is because me and Kasano, I like the best, and when I find it, I stick to it. I have found Bell Pack Tea Roll, and I'm stuck with it. It is soft but not weak, strong but not hard. It is just perfect. Bell Pack Tea Roll is smooth and gentle on the skin. Same as Bell Pack Kitchen Towel. It cleans in one wipe. You can soak, squeeze, and clean again. One Bell Pack Kitchen Towel lasts longer and saves you money. It's time you switch to Bell Pack today and experience the perfect paper tissue. Say pocket tissue, table napkins, tea roll, and a kitchen towel. Paper chow. Bell Pack is simply the best. Bell Pack, just perfect.
To be a Bell Pack distributor, call 055-11-44400. Another quality product from Bell Aqua.
Nothing feels so good like Bell Pack.
Welcome to Belmonte, where luxury meets comfort. If you're in the market for a home that combines class, convenience, and comfort, then look no further than Belmonte. Belmonte is located in the prime East Legon area of Lagos Avenue. The Belmonte stylish apartment offers first-class luxury and cutting-edge finishing. Whether you are looking for an executive studio suite or a cozy one-bedroom apartment, a spacious two-bedroom apartment, or a custom villa, we have you covered. But that's not all. Belmonte offers a range of top-notch facilities to relax and keep you entertained. So why wait? Take the first step towards your dream home. Sign up for our 3-year payment plan and own your property today. Contact us at 0204-343-011 or 0204-343-015 to learn more. Belmonte is developed by CPL Developers.
Think of Ghana's forests as a pair of lungs or kidneys, cleaning our air and water. regulating rainfall, sunshine, and serving as a buffer against natural disasters. Those kidneys and lungs are currently being attacked and perforated at a faster rate by illegal mining.
The forest is a no-go. It is an illegal area for anybody to mine. If the colonial masters save these resources, how come our fourth republic is the one destroying these resources?
34 of the country's 288 forest reserves have been affected, with an estimated destruction of 4,726 hectares.
This is purely criminal.
Erastus Asardonko goes deep into major forests under siege. Forests under siege, Abamprama Forest Reserve.
Live on Joy 99.7 FM and Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. This is Newsnight. In the next 60 minutes, push for scrapping of all constitutional limitations, barring chiefs from partisan politics gains traction. Tonight, former UN Special Advisor backs Speaker Alban Bagbin's agreement with the Supreme Court's ruling on the matter.
In fact, one day I read the Speaker's statement about the chiefs. What I was thinking about was the Constitution. In terms of the Constitution, even sidelining certain traditional values that could have helped to strengthen democratic practice.
Also tonight, we will not backtrack in passing law to protect our cultural identity. Sponsors of Ghana's anti-gay bill remain resolute in the face of the World Bank's suspension of new loans to Uganda following passage of a similar anti-LGBTQ law in the East African nation.
So not prevent us from passing the law. We've all decided in Parliament when we had a second reading of the law that we will all support it and pass it.
We have details of that. Also increasing fears over the possibility of more coups in West Africa as a member of the ECOWAS Parliament says there will be 2 more military takeovers before the end of year.
And so this should be a worrying trend to all of us, whether we agree or not. We had it last year, Abuja, and it has happened. And now they have predicted that there will be 2 more.
We have details as the Speaker of Parliament says even though Ghana's military may not stage a coup, there's a potential danger of civil unrest if steps are not taken to address the root causes of the agitations.
What we should be afraid of is civil disobedience and civil revolution, as happened in Egypt. That we should be afraid of.
And in business, Ghana's Statistical Service signals some marginal reduction in food inflation in the coming months.
And in sports, African football legend Samuel Eto'o to be investigated by African football governing body CAF for alleged misconduct in his role as president of Cameroon FA.
And much later, NPP flag-bearer aspirant Kwabena Jepong admits Alan Tremante and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia are front-runners in the NPP presidential race, but optimistic of winning that election.
Underdogs win. It's happened many times in the political.
You concede you an underdog.
I'm saying what is important is underdogs also win. It has happened several times.
But what does Kwabena Jepong make of the president's recent comment that he was not supporting any aspirant?
I heard the president recently make a very forward statement that, trying to put blame on some of us aspirants, seeking to create the impression that we think that he's supporting the vice president. I think action speaks louder than words.
You want to stay for details of that and more here on Newsnight. Your thoughts and comments are welcome. It's via WhatsApp 05511119997. I am MFA Apau.
My name is Evan Spencer. We start tonight with that controversy triggered by the speaker's comments on chiefs engaged in partisan politics. And tonight, a former UN advisor on governance, Professor Bafo Ejimendua, has joined this growing call for the scrapping of the constitutional provision that bars chiefs from engaging in active politics. Professor Bafo Ejimendua has become the second prominent voice on the call after the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, registered his disagreement with the recent Supreme Court interpretation of the law, which said although traditional leaders can endorse the policies of political candidates, they cannot endorse the candidates themselves or pull themselves up for elections. We'll hear from the Speaker and Professor Ejimendua shortly, but first listen to the Supreme Court's position on the law in this report filed by court correspondent Joseph Akable.
Ghana's constitution bans chiefs from participating in active party politics.
Chiefs wishing to do so and also to contest political office are required to abdicate the stool or skin they occupy. What constitutes active party politics has been a subject of spirited public debate, with some insisting chiefs' endorsement of parties, candidates and their policies is within the law. Despite the uncertainty, chiefs have not shied away from speaking.
The work you are doing here, I didn't see Kwame Nkrumah, but from 1979 to date, no one can say he has worked more than you.
79 to date.
Anyone who disagrees, I will turn into a serial caller, and if that person defeats me in such a debate, I will abdicate.
Legal practitioner Elom Kwame Goni took the matter to the Apex Court, seeking its interpretation. The court, in its judgment, authored by Justice Emmanuel Yoni Kulendi, laid down what comments are lawful and which ones are unconstitutional. The court said statements that praise a policy or program or a project of a candidate or a party are permissible endorsements. On the other hand, those other statements where a chief is heard endorsing the person of the candidate or his party or urging voters to vote for them are the kind of, quote, taking sides, end quote, in a partisan political contest that the Constitution disapproves of.
Well, after that ruling was delivered by the Supreme Court, in the last few days, we've seen more chiefs queuing to actually endorse some of the candidates right now campaigning to lead the MPP. Alan Chamanting has benefited from that. We've heard from the Paramount Chief of Ojusu, Nana Afrani Okesi, the fourth.
Your presence here means you have come home. The ancestors are solidly behind you. Do not fear, because our prayers are with you. You shall win the elections. Even in the spiritual realm, you've won already, so do not be afraid at all. I urge all of you to stand by him and support him for these elections. He has already won. He shall emerge victorious.
Yesterday, we heard from the Speaker of Parliament who says, well, why do you even want to stop them from doing this and more? If they want to really join partisan politics, allow them to do so. He was very critical of the Supreme Court and the verdict they delivered, but also the constitutional provision. Listen to him.
Violence has been introduced into our politics more than we began. Worst of it all, the reflection or mirror or the representation of our culture and tradition has been hit hard with a constitutional provision against active participation of chiefs in politics. I don't understand what that meant. The Supreme Court have tried to explain it. Active participation. What is politics about? It's about development. What are chiefs and queens supposed to lead us to do? To develop. And then you have prohibited them and say vote for others. But I don't think that you can be voted for. And you call that rule of law, selective justice.
Well, this is actually causing a lot of fresh conversations on this. And latest to join the conversation is former UN advisor on governance, Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. Well, he's been interacting with Evans Mensah. That interview will be aired tonight on PM Express and is at 9 p.m. on the Joy News channel. But listen to him speak on this particular matter. He says the law must be scrapped.
You see, listen, any sensible chief would not like to be engaging in partisan politics. But don't stop them. The sensible ones will stay away. Because if you're a chief, the rationale for putting them out was simply that a chief is a chief for all people. So in your constituency, in your traditional area, we have NPP, NDC, all the parties are there. So if you choose to be partisan, then be prepared for fireworks with the opposition.
Okay, and you believe we should get to a place where the constitutional amendment to allow the chiefs to not get involved in that as well?
It won't bother me. The Constitution sidelines a significant aspect of our existence as Ghanaians, thinking that the elite, the new elite, the political elite, the educated elite, we can run this country without the real input of the chiefs. My support for chiefs' involvement is not in terms of running for office or taking partisan lines. But I think if you look at the chiefs and their traditional areas, when we were creating district assemblies, we should have considered that at least for those localities, the power of the chief should be made to be felt by the people. The chiefs can be made to lead development in their own areas.
But must they be partisan, I guess is what you say, not necessarily political, partisan to do that?
You don't have to be partisan to develop your community.
But what the Speaker of Parliament was suggesting was...
They should be partisan.
Yes.
I don't think they have to be necessarily partisan. If that's the way, I have no problem with it. But my preference will be to make the chiefs effective in their traditional areas.
But they are already allowed that. They are already allowed this
the
space. Nobody
assembly
stops them from doing that now.
Of course, but constitutionally they cannot override what the district assembly says. They should lead the district assemblies.
They should lead the political system at that
of
level.
Of course. They should. Because first of all, they are the landowners. Do you know why the Minister for Mineral Resources ran to some big chiefs and pleading with them to help stop the galamsey? Why did they do that? After years of struggling on their own, they realized that the chiefs, the owners of the land, should have a role to play in how these lands are managed. You see? So I guess I'm saying that. And this is just a small aspect of the reform we're talking about.
But just on that, before we move to the big aspect on this chiefs bit, you also don't have a problem with them being allowed to engage in active partisan politics, which the Constitution expressly forbids, and the Supreme Court has affirmed in recent Supreme Court judgment, which the Speaker disagrees with. You don't have a problem with that too?
You see, listen, any sensible chief would not like to be engaging in partisan politics. But don't stop them. The sensible ones will stay away, because if you're a chief, the rationale for putting them out was simply that a chief is a chief for all people. So in your constituency, in your traditional area, we have NPP, NDC, all the parties are there. So if you choose to be partisan, then be prepared for fireworks with the opposition.
Okay, and you believe we should get to a place where the constitutional amendment to allow the chiefs to not get involved in that as well?
It won't bother me at all. Let them do it, and I'm saying that the sensible ones simply will not do it. Don't stop them.
You think having them to be partisan would encourage them more to enter into that arena and be more hands-on?
Yes, in terms of development of their traditional areas.
The counter-argument, according to the framers of the Constitution, is that the chieftaincy institution is so sacred. And politics is divisive. Politics is so divisive and acrimonious in our part of the world. If you allow the chiefs there, then you are now tainting that one institution that sort of become the mediator sometimes. You've seen what Asante Kene has done elsewhere. That's why we should keep them.
I understand that rationale, and as I say, that can be kept. Or we can decide to open it up, and the sensible ones will abide by what the Constitution presents currently. You see, Evans, have you noticed that when there's a traditional event, festival or whatever you have anywhere in the country, the chief comes out and you see the crowd that follow? People even drive from Accra to be part of these festivities in their traditional areas without any penny. They spend their own. And the crowd that follow, the festivities that go on. When a politician is going for a rally, oftentimes they pay people in order to get a crowd. But chiefs, they don't. The loyalty, you see, in a way, we're still very primordial in our lives. We're still attached to the traditional things that we have. So to pretend that you and I, because we are educated, highly educated, so to speak, and therefore that what is tradition is below us or it cannot be mixed with politics. In fact, one day I read the speaker's statement about the chiefs. What I was thinking about was the constitution. In terms of the constitution, even sidelining certain traditional values that could have helped to strengthen democratic practice.
That's Professor Bafo Ajimandia, UN advisor on governance. Well, Evans, you tell me more about what he's been telling you in that interview that will be aired tonight. But first, let me bring in Dr. Kwame Asasante, is a political scientist. When this Supreme Court ruling came, we've been having an interaction with him on it. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight. Dr. Asante, Supreme Court's decision really, it looks like definitely did not bring finality to this particular matter, especially when sanctions were not prescribed. You've been hearing from Alban Bagbeng, now Professor Bafo Ajimandia, asking for the scrapping of this particular law. Are we ready for that kind of situation in Ghana?
I don't think we are ready because, you see, what the Supreme Court did was to set the stage for an improved conditions relative to what these chiefs and their involvement in politics. It was a good one that the Supreme Court came out with. If we now want to, as it were, if we go by what the Speaker said, is to encourage chiefs to be part of politics. And then gradually we are missing the point. Because remember, the chiefs are the pivot around which society revolves. And in every society, there are all shades of political opinion within this society. When you have a problem, can you run to a chief that you know definitely has contrary political views to what you have? That creates what problems. And that is why we are saying that the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, say that the chiefs should stay away. What the Supreme Court did was to explain the partisan nature. It said endorsement and urging people to be in politics. That chiefs are not supposed to do. But that aside, if we are talking about development within a particular area, there is nothing wrong with chiefs coming out with ideas about development and then helping society to build, helping to build society that they find themselves. We have seen chiefs in this country who are not partisan in politics, but they are carrying out developmental programs in their area. What about that?
I'm imagining my chief, for instance, standing for MP or something of the sort. Really, is that a situation we can handle? How then we draw that fine line between the chiefs engaging in partisan politics, and then also, because I heard the speaker mention that it appears that we are depriving them, it's more like a selective justice of a sort if we are barring them from engaging in partisan politics.
We are not depriving them. Politics, taking part in politics does not necessarily mean that you have to be partisan in active terms. You can proper ideas, decisions, action, support of the political system is part of things that brings about development. So necessarily, I believe that they should not be part of partisan politics, but they can also be in a society, come out with ideas that will develop the society, come out with programs on their own that help alongside with the state. If you put them into the local assembly system, you are going to create a situation that you cannot handle. Now that we are going back to the conversation of the MMDC elections and all that, definitely you are going to have the political structure change at the local level, where it's going to be partisan if we really accept the conversation and then we make amendment in terms of the referendum. Then you are saying that you are putting a chief there. Then obviously you are making the chief partisan. That will not bode well for politics at the grassroots, and then it will undermine development.
But what really is the fear, is the concern some have raised? Is it the case that we are saying that once a chief engages in partisan politics, the respect will be gone? Is it that we don't respect politicians?
Pardon me, can you come again?
I'm asking about the fact that if chiefs engage in partisan politics, the fear is that the reverence amongst others will be gone. Is it the case that we don't respect politicians?
Politics has its own characteristics. People insult, the attack, and all that. The institution of chieftaincy is a sacred one, and you don't want to toy with that. And that is the rationale behind we taking them out of that realm. Remember that even in certain jurisdictions, because of that problem, that is why you have second chamber where people will not be elected and you put them there and then they go on the quiet. Because the issue of electoral politics is divisive, it is, very, very, conflictual and the rest of them. So you don't want to, risk, because once you lose the chiefs in the traditional area, I'm afraid you have no democracy, because democracy without the basics or the roots is empty.
Okay, we're grateful. That's Dr. Kwame Asah-Sante. He's a political scientist at the University of Ghana.
Well, I mean, you want to catch this full interview with Professor Bafo Ajimandua later tonight. One of the things he strongly advocated for was a breaking of the MPP-NDC duopoly. And so I asked him, well...
And the speaker has been speaking about that too.
Exactly, and we'll hear the speaker. But so I asked him, I mean, if you want to break that duopoly, somebody must do it. What about him? Will he?
I seriously believe that we need a third force. Not necessarily a political party, but a movement that can come to reset the path of progress for this country. Because the path we are treading currently is not going to take us anywhere.
Will you throw your hat in?
Well, I'm not in politics, so I'm not going to throw my hat for this or that party.
No, I mean, stand by yourself as an independent third force, maybe, an option to the duopoly.
I'm not too sure the people of Ghana will want somebody like me for all kinds of reasons. But as I say, if the opportunity comes and I have to offer myself, why not? I've loved this country for a long time.
Well,
what will be the opportunity? Don't tell me.
Well, you have to watch the full interview. Yes, because you know I won't stop there. I'll ask a bit more for clarity. So you want to join that full conversation? It's at 9 p.m. on the Johnny channel, but also across our social media platforms. Talking about breaking the duopoly, by the way. The Speaker of Parliament has been talking about precisely that. And he again says our democracy cannot be said to be a model when you have only two parties governing this particular great country of ours, especially because in Parliament now we only have NDC and MPP. He actually reminisces back in the day when we used to have PNC and CPP, all of them in the House. Listen to the Speaker talk about this.
So when I went to Parliament, there were a number of parties called Progressive Alliance with independent members. That was condemned as one-party parliament, even though there were a number of parties, such as NCP, they were called Abro, or Eagle. Today, we have only two, MPP and NDC in Parliament. That is what we refer to as a duopoly. It's a challenge we have to look at. There are more than two sides of a coin. When you are told there are two sides of a coin, you have been deceived. There may be two major sides of a coin, but the edge is also a side. Again, women representation has increased marginally from 8% to 14.5%. Ghana remains among the lowest in Africa. Many parliaments in Africa have now passed 30% women representation in parliament. And the highest score in the whole world is in Africa, Rwandan parliament. 61% women representation. Ghana is 14.5. Yet we call ourselves a model democracy.
Well, that's the Speaker of Parliament complaining about that.
Well, he's also called for a broad national conversation on paying MPs better. Well, according to the Speaker, MPs are always seeking to catch the eye of the President to go into executive positions because of the condition of service for such offices. He says they are way better than that of MPs.
Parliament is a repository of that sovereign will of the people. And its successful functioning is a shared responsibility. If you vote somebody to represent you, you have given your future, your hopes, everything to him. Then you decide to pay somebody else more and pay him less. You will reap what you sow. If I were in charge, the members of parliament, the president, the assembly members that you vote for will be more paid than the ministers of state and the others that you don't vote for. Because that's the sovereign will of the people. That is their choice. If members of parliament are taken care of, nobody will be struggling to catch the eye of the president. They will all be struggling to catch the eye of the speaker so that they can contribute, reflect you on the floor of the house. But because of this disparity, the people you voted for are relegated. The appointees are rather given the ascendancy and better conditions. And my colleagues, your regional minister is one of those suffering. He is a member of parliament for a constituency. He is a regional minister, and as a member of parliament, he has to be seen in parliament. He has to be seen at the constituency. He has to be seen in the region. One person doing these three jobs. Please, how effective would the person be? Let's be realistic.
Well, he insists he will continue to demand that Parliament is well resourced so they can send Parliament to the doorsteps of the people.
And so when you hear me again fighting for more resources for Parliament, know that is for the institution to be strong and to deliver the goods you demand. It's not for my pocket as an individual. At this age, what more do I need to enjoy? Even the position itself is enjoyment. What else again? The legacy has been left behind. And so we need to do that to have a model democracy in Ghana. The relevance of Parliament is closely linked to the issues that I just referred to. The responsibility of the MP to the voter, looking outside other institutions of public. In fact, that is why I insisted that the NCC and the rest should be here. We created the IGIs, and we are not making good use of them. Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, the National Commission for Civic Education, the Media Commission. We have created all that, but little resources are given to them, and therefore they are not very effective on the ground. We in Parliament are prepared to change the narrative and to support these institutions, to strengthen them, to be able to serve as the link between the governed and the governors. This is where the relevance of Parliament can come in.
So that's the Speaker of Parliament there. Do you agree with him on everything he said, particularly the MP's pay? Send us a WhatsApp 055-1111-997. I'll share it with the rest of the world. Still ahead, we will not backtrack in passing law to protect our cultural identity. Sponsors of Ghana's anti-gay bill remain resolute in the face of the World Bank's suspension of new loans to Uganda following passage of a similar anti-LGBTQ law in the East African nation.
So not prevent us from passing the law. We've all decided in Parliament when we had a second reading of the law that we will all support it and pass it.
And then much later, we'll put a focus on climate. And guess what? We are turning degraded land into natural homestead. You want to stay for details of that and more after business with George Riafe.
MP pay more?
Paying MPs more to do their job?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. I mean, I'm a firm believer of giving people what they need to work and motivating them 100%. Then you demand the results. When they fail, show them the door.
Okay, and we'll share if many of our WhatsAppers agree with you and our audiences agree with you. What is your headline?
Well, Evans, coming up in business, Ghana's statistical service signals some marginal reduction in food inflation in the coming months, and even tea and related products witnessed the highest jump in inflation rate from June to July this year, going up by more than 100%. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Alliance Life and Ghana Pay.
When you want to eat, just Momo it. Tired of the long queues in the supermarket? Pay with Momo. When you really want that beautiful new blouse, just Momo it. When you want to get a trim and get fresh to impress you know who, just Momo it. When you need to pay your utility bills and domestic staff, Shani Momo. When you want to send love to the family back home, send some Momo. Join the millions of MTN Momo users all over Ghana and live life the brighter way. So just Momo it. MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom.
Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST Campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
No matter your water needs, Syntex has it all. Syntex tank was first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex tank was first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and now introduces the customer specs order, which will let you order any color and size you want. Syntex tanks gives you the biggest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntex tank. Syntex tank, stress-free. Syntex tank, reliable. Syntex tank, maximum guarantee. Call 0244 335 168, Kumasi 0505 555 666, or visit syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a year strong, a year tough.
I'm afraid. Yeah. Media Sambisanda mo. Eti emrot ya no. Mumu hwan pa na tumi hwe na mo bodom pe mo man yakono. Eye kwabna. No mumu hwan so na tumi tasmale me ma yene nyina de. Eye kojo. Enu kro. Kobre tumi hwe na bodom pe mo sense wo yusu accident eba. Ayede yan ban ne do braye. Wo sie ti na mo ban na sem ma na hode ne. Sa. Ani na kudwo so yusu accident chako. Na eno ne de e ma wo se wo ye krejen fita. Na watimi asiri bedwo ma na feel you. Ey kojo. Yeah. Pepsodent Heba and a Pepsodent Taco. Afedie. You're gonna natural.
FDIJ Jadian Katuyatu.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, high prices of some food items in the country and non-alcoholic beverage pushed July inflation rate to another fresh level. Data from the Ghana Statistical Service puts the rate at 43.1%. There is more in this report.
The Ghana Statistical Service data show that inflation on imported items went up by 1% to hit 45.7%. On the other hand, inflation on local food items was also up by 1.6% to hit 37.5%, ending July this year. Food inflation was up by 0.8% from June to July this year to reach 55%, while non-food inflation was up by some 0.4%. This is the third time since April this year that inflation rate has witnessed continuous spike at the end of each month. However, on a month-on-month basis, inflation rate from June to July picked up marginally compared to the previous month, where there was some decline. Furnishing, household equipment, and routine household maintenance also contributed significantly to marginal jump in inflation for July. Tea bags and related items which are imported recorded the highest prices over the past month, that is from June to July this year.
And that is a Business Desk report. Meanwhile, government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenin has maintained that the harvest season could impact positively on inflation rate in the coming months.
Now, what we are seeing with food inflation is that on a year-on-year change, we are seeing a much more significant change rather than a month-on-month. Indeed, on a month-on-month basis, we saw a decline of 0.1%. So one might want to think that it's possibly the effect of some harvest that is happening, and we can only be hopeful that going into the month of August and September, we're going to see a much bigger, larger change in food inflation from this perspective. Having said that, the concern on a year-on-year basis is worth thinking through, especially when it recorded a 0.8% upward change on a year-on-year basis. So it's always important to distinguish between what is happening on a month-on-month and on a year-on-year basis in terms of what our expectations are. Then the third question is on printing of the currencies. We always would not want to comment on things that we don't directly capture in the computation of our consumer price index and rate of inflation. And one of such is the printing of currencies. But definitely from a theoretical point of view, printing of currencies has a relationship with the rate of inflation.
Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenin. Meanwhile, economist Professor Peter Korte tells Joy Business the development shows that government might have to do more in the area of food to stabilize the situation.
The July inflation figures clearly shows that we're still having marginal increases in the rate of inflation, and that points to the need, especially to look at the food production. It looks like food inflation is still an issue with us, and we ought to tackle this. Of course, July, August, we are close to the harvest season. Nevertheless, food inflation is very high, and I'm particularly concerned about the food inflation in the region. You see inflation in Accra around 31%. For us in northern, upper west, upper east regions, food inflation is over 50%. And so it tells you that we are not producing enough, and even the few because farmers need income to live on, they end up selling and struggling to survive or to meet their food needs.
Economist Professor Peter Korte. Chief Director at the Ministry of Finance, Eva Mens, is urging all accountants in the public sector to uphold the Public Financial Management Law to help reduce government's debt. Madam Eva Mens was speaking at the post-2023 Media Budget Forum organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana.
A lot of MDAs do not do due diligence when it comes to project development. And so most project costs are understated. And then when it comes to actual implementation, there are a lot of cost variations. So there are major challenges with how these areas are accumulated. For instance, you have companies who have done work for government and are not being paid. They've taken bank loans and are unable to pay these banks. It creates bank impairment. Number two, on the side of government, we don't have good services that are delivered. And thirdly, I mean, as we speak, over 40% of all payments that we make regarding capital expenditure has to do with interest on delayed payments. So it's a very complex, multidimensional issue that we need to look at, and that's where accountants come in.
Vice President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana, Augustine Addo, on his part, urged accountants and auditors to uphold the ethics and rule of law in governing the profession.
If you look at 2019 Auditor General's report, he highlighted infractions in terms of budget overrun. Unfortunately, and very regrettably, the departments and agencies that flouted it heavily, the cream departments and agencies, Presidency, Minister of Finance, Parliament House, they were the heavy culprits of this. What sanctions are we applying? And all these are done at the glare eyes of accountants and auditors. I say Ghana, together with other partners, have helped to develop the capacity. What is left is for the individuals within the public space to apply this capacity to support government.
Vice President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana, that is ICA Ghana, Augustine Addo. Banking consultant Dr. Benjamin Animwaa has downplayed concerns that the Africa region is becoming less profitable, fueling the exit of some major banks in the region. Standard Chartered Bank UK recently announced the exit from some African countries. It also follows a similar move by Barclays PLC. Now, this has led to fears that more global giants could be getting out of the continent. But Dr. Animwaa believes that other regions are moving or forcing these firms to get out of the region.
Data shows that Africa is young. Data shows that usage of technology in Africa is very high. So Africa is really promising. You see, it depends on the interest of the parent of the multinational. And you see, it's not only Africa that is the destination for foreign direct investment. In fact, data suggests that Africa received the least in terms of percentage of foreign direct investment. It is about Southeast Asia, it's about South America, and it's about Europe. So when it comes to Africa's share of foreign direct investment, Africa is even not as an attractive destination as one would like to make it look like. But then going forward, in the same region of Africa, there are some economies that are really, really doing well. And so if you look at the strategies of these multinationals, they don't exit the continent entirely. What they do is that they fold up in some regions or some economies, then they relocate in other economies that are promising higher returns for their capital.
Dr. Benjamin Animwaa is a banking consultant and finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. To the stock market, if you're a shareholder in GCB Bank, you were down by a peso, that is down by 10 pesos to close at 3 Ghana cedis, 40 pesos. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans and MFA.
Thank you very much, George. And we'll check a few of your messages on the WhatsApp console just to see if they agree with you. Your position was pay the MPs more and then demand more from them once you do that. Okay, let's see if you agree with him. Yes, I do agree with the speaker. This one says on that. Yes, I do agree with the speaker on giving better remuneration and resources to Parliament. However, they need to work within specific KPIs that justify their continuous presence on the seat and should not only be dependent on the voter. That's Koshi Apalu from Accra. So George getting one vote there in support. Do we have more here? Kofi Sedu, well, we should not run ahead of ourselves as a country. Allowing chiefs to engage in active partisan politics will stifle development. That's on the subject of whether chiefs should be allowed to engage in active partisan politics. Nana Kwamwa says the call for chiefs to show interest in partisan politics is welcoming. I hope the chiefs will stand ready when people also express themselves like the way politicians are treated. Although I am aware that some chiefs are already engaging in active politics, as their words and what they say indeed show. And one more says, I don't agree that MPs should be paid more. They have all sorts of means to make money, percentages or on projects. Walanyo centers his thoughts on that.
Well, there are a bit more of your messages there that we'll get to go through, but it's time to put the focus on climate. And this evening, an inspirational Ghanaian has developed a beautiful natural homestead where he keeps animals for business and conserves the environment by converting degraded land into forest. After sun winning leading to a degraded land 24 years ago, the enclave at Domiabra near Ejuso in Ashanti region is now a one-of-a-kind farm surrounded by forests. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin visited the homestead for Climate Focus.
So when I came, I found out that some of the parts, the land is being used as a sign-winning area, and for that you cannot plant anything.
This place is a little heaven because from the Bible we all understand that Adam and Eve started from a garden, and the garden comprises so many trees and different types.
In fact, when you come here, you would see a lot of trees, you will see different kinds of animals, and you would be amazed on how this particular land was converted into a useful one.
Excessive sun raining rendered the land degraded. Nanasia sought assistance from the fishery department to convert a portion of the land into fish ponds. He now has 4 departments on the farm.
That is the livestock, the aquaculture, mangoes, and that is the tree, and then the poultry, then a small game.
Nanasia's efforts have earned him recognition as a farmer and friend of the environment.
2002, I won the National Best Aquaculture, and in 2004, I won the 2nd National Best Farmer, and a lot of awards that I've received, like the Menchia Excellence Business Award.
His 31-year-old second daughter, Teresa Ohenua Kuma, has joined him to further turn the area into a wonderful part of nature.
The air here is very clean. It's not saturated. Yeah, since we have different types of plants around, each and every plant has its own medicinal purposes. So as we inhale it, you're not just inhaling only the air, but you're also inhaling some medicines in it.
Nanasia and his daughter's greatest goal is that people recognize the value of soil and land. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
That's our Climate Focus by Mohammed Nuruddin. It comes to you every Wednesday here on Joy 99.7 FM, on Joy News as well. Now, I'll stay in the Ashanti region because Member of Parliament for Aswansi constituency, Muntaka Mubarak, is calling for the legalization of tricycle operators in the country, acknowledging the need to decongest the central business district. The MP believes there's a need to enact bylaws regulating activities of the riders. Well, this afternoon, some commercial tricycle riders took to the streets, blocking the Abuabo High Street in Kumasi in a protest against the restrictions by the Metropolitan Assembly. The MP's intervention halted that long hour of street blockade at Abuabo. Well, my colleague Nanaya Ojima was there. Thankfully, we'll be speaking to the MP shortly. But listen to Nanaya Ojima report on the matter.
Some commercial tricycle riders on Thursday blocked the Abuabo High Street in Kumasi to protest operational restrictions by the Metropolitan Assembly. Motorists and commuters were left stranded in traffic as leaders of Zongo communities attempted to restore order. The riders have been facing off KMA since the decongestion exercise in the central business district of the city kicked in last week. It took the intervention of the Member of Parliament, Muntaka Mubarak, to clear the protesters from the streets. The MP, who agrees there is need for the city to be decongested, believes bylaws should be enacted to regulate activities of the riders. Muntaka Mubarak has since called on riders to exercise restraint.
And thankfully he joins us on the line right now. Mr. Mubarak, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Yeah, good evening to you and your listeners.
So you asked for restraint. Are you getting it?
Yeah, I mean, so far since I called for the restraint, we've not had any major hiccups. I'm only hoping that the trust that they have in us will be reciprocated by the authorities also listening to the suggestions that we are putting forward. Because, yes, I acknowledge that we cannot leave them to continue as business as usual, but obviously we need to find a middle ground so that we can de-escalate the situation that we find ourselves now.
You said you talked about some suggestions. You put some suggestions forward to the KMA.
Yes,
what are these?
Yeah, the suggestions are that you don't move from one extreme end to the other. Because yes, I acknowledge the congestion in the central business center is worrying, and largely it's caused by multiple things, including the total drivers, the market women selling on the pavement, the Praja guys, and then the Abuboya. They all are part. And my view is that let's look at how other big cities have done it. In London, you have the congestion charges, where you introduce a sticker that may even be a biometric, where people have to pay for it annually. Maybe you just put a fee on it. Then before you get that sticker, probably we'll say, oh, you have to be 21, you need to have rider's license, your Praga should be registered, and all that. Automatically, you take the ruffians, or for lack of better word, the badness out, and then you'll be able to manage how this is done. Because even, you see, one of the things that we are losing sight of is that today, as we speak in our country, is the major means of transport across our country. And I'm saying that the statistical service should do some work on this. The rough estimation is that close to more than 50% of commuters across the country use this means. We allow them imported in, we charge duties on them, we've started and allowed the thing to grow. And now today, as we now speak, there are more of these projects on our streets than normal vehicles. I mean, the one that you and I drive. And the other sad thing is that majority of our teeming youth who could not find job have found solace in this. In my constituency, I know, and believe me, if you have to conduct a search on the UC, we have graduates who have completed KNUST, who have completed Kumasi Technical University, have completed other universities, who are riding this to earn a living because we cannot find job for them. So yes, I agree. We cannot say because of the challenges that we find ourselves, we should just allow the chaos to continue. But we need to be mindful of how we manage it so that we just don't move from one extreme end to another extreme.
Have you received positive response from the KMA on these suggestions?
Well, I must admit, I've been calling the mayor. He's been ignoring my call to my utmost surprise. This is a brother that we virtually were in constant touch. He no longer picked my call since this thing started. But I've called people higher up above him, because this is not only about the city, it is also has security implications. It has so many other implications. And for me, as a policy student, I did policy and planning. For every policy that you try to introduce, you need to measure what will be the likely consequences. If the consequences of the policy that you are introducing will be bigger than the problem that you already have, then you better don't do it. Because you see, I'm shocked today that when I called and said, "Oh, I've heard they are blocking streets, they are doing all this," and I tried to reach out to some of their leaders and said, "Oh, can we talk?" Evans, I don't know whether your camera will show you. There were more than 5,000 teeming youth. I was shocked that with that speed of time, over 5,000 of them could come. To the extent that the frontage of my office could not take us, we have to use a nearby, school field. This is a danger that we cannot pretend not to see. We are in West Africa. We are in West Africa where the turmoil is so high. Let's not allow people to feel hopeless. Because the more hopeless people feel hopeless, the danger all of us find ourselves. Because these are teeming youth. When they begin to feel that there's nothing to lose, we will all be in danger. Let them know that if something happened to the city, they have something to lose, because the next morning they will not be able to go out to ply the roads and be able to earn a living by the evening. So that we all be sharing. I know it's a major challenge, but we've all sat and allowed it to grow unregulated until where it is now.
Yeah.
I will say we should not leave it as business as usual, where they just do anything. Let us put some measurement. So we should put some regulation that will limit the excesses.
Okay. Thank you very much, Muntaka Mubarak there. And we've been trying ourselves to reach the mayor for Kumasi, and he is out of the jurisdiction. He's traveled, and maybe that explains why we've not been able to reach him, just like the MP also says there. Let's do sports now. Hello, Ms. Bao.
Hello, Evans.
Oh, do you have that Maguire story? Oh,
yes.
goodness me. That was a big news for me. We lost 50 million, but it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Good for Maguire also.
It's good for us. Good for us. Good for us. It's okay.
Well, I read somewhere that is a big blow to United fans losing Maguire. I'm sure that was.
It's Liverpool fans.
That was definitely mistakes.
And Arsenal fans. I knew Sabute and Co. Saying that.
Well, it's one African football legend who is in the news, and it's Samuel Eto'o, the president of the Cameroonian Football Association, and CAF announced earlier today that he has received some reports from some stakeholders in the Cameroonian Football Association to investigate Samuel Eto'o for some alleged misconduct. Now, in a statement published on the African Football Governing Body, it says that it is looking into these requests based on and in accordance with its statutes and regulation, and that whilst the allegations are prima facie serious, Mr. Samuel Eto'o is presumed to be innocent until an appropriate judicial body concludes otherwise. The institution also said it will not make any further announcement while investigations are ongoing, and will only make public statement when the proceedings are complete. Now, barely a month ago, a group representing Cameroon's amateur clubs demanded the resignation of the legendary football player from his role as president of the country's football federation, citing some serious irregularities within the Football Association. Also within that period, Samuel Eto'o was accused of match fixing to help one of his friends' club to be promoted to the top flight football in Cameroon. So we'll keep tabs on that and see what happens. Well, at Chelsea, it's Reece James who's been confirmed as the club's new captain following the departure of Cesar Azpilicueta this summer. James has made 147 appearances for the first team since graduating from the academy in 2018 and having joined the club as a 6-year-old. And he's been speaking to the club's media after that announcement.
To take on, the role and responsibility. I know I've got big shoes to fill. We've had huge captains here in the past. John Terry being one, Gary Cahill, even Aspie that just left. These are 3 huge captains and big legacies at the club. They played here for a number of years. So I've got big shoes to fill. I've been at Chelsea pretty much my whole life. I started here when I was 6. To come through the academy is tough enough, but to receive the captaincy as well is a great feeling for me and my family. Wow, the journey's it's been tough. It hasn't been easy. There was probably a number of occasions where I probably wasn't going to stay at Chelsea because I probably wasn't good enough at the time, and it was tough. But no, I kept on working hard to get to a level where I got a contract.
Yep, that's Rich James, Chelsea's new captain, age 23. Definitely going to be on for a very long time. Hopefully he doesn't get injured this season. Well, that's it for sports, brought to you by Pepsodent Herbal and Chaco Pepsodent. Every smile matters.
And Premier League is back.
On Friday. Manchester City versus Burnley.
Oh, goodness
Big one.
me. Oh, goodness me. And before Paul.
I can't wait for that. Now, sponsors of Ghana's bill criminalizing LGBTQ plus sexual relationships and associations say they are not deterred by the World Bank suspension of new loans to Uganda after the East African nation passed a similar law. Well, the Ugandan anti-gay law prescribes death sentence for some homosexual acts and 20 years for anyone found guilty of promoting same-sex. That's not in our bill so far. But we've been hearing from a proponent of the bill, Emmanuel Bejra, on this.
We are not deterred at all. It will also not prevent us from passing the law. We've all decided in Parliament when we had a second reading of the law that we will all support it and pass it into a law. And so we will not be deterred at all. But rather, you should also understand that Ghana is already in debt crisis. Our debt situation in the country does not allow us even to go for loan or facility. That's why we've gone into IMF to support us in recovering our economic situation in the country. And so we may not even go to World Bank again for any facility. And so that should not deter us. We should rather be willing to support ourselves economically to make sure that Ghana should go beyond aid.
Well, Emmanuel Bejra there, he also doubles as a member of the ECOWAS Parliament, and he's been commenting on what has been happening in Niger. As you know, ECOWAS attempted to mediate, try and push a diplomatic solution. They failed yet, but they say tomorrow there's a big meeting, a big meeting of the ECOWAS heads again to decide what to do. Should we go in? Bejra has been talking about that, warning that there is actually a prediction that we may have 2 more coups in the sub-region before the end of the year.
It is in Niger, and from the analysis that given us, we have 2 more to go to the end of this year.
2 more coup d'etats to be witnessed?
2 coup d'etats to go. And that should be a worrying trend to all of us. In fact, from all the speakers who came to us, we have 2 more coup d'etats sub-region to go before the end of the year. And so this should be a worrying trend to all of us, whether we agree or not. We had it last year, Abuja, and it has happened. And now they have predicted that there will be 2 more.
And you want to stay with us because we will update you on what happens in this ECOWAS meeting tomorrow. And guess who is joining us?
Animwaa Anim-Addo. The latest.
Applause.
This is a lot of drama.
Love you.
Oh,
yes,
I love you.
But really, why are we so excited?
Yeah,
What's
why
happening?
are you
New
so
single. And if you've never heard Animwaa sing, I think that you
God.
should tune in on Friday at dawn on The Reason is Jesus.
Yes.
And we are launching Yes Sorry Wo. Well, Animwaa Anim-Addo is here.
One thing, I've always wondered how the angels sound.
See,
You don't
better
have
than
to
angels.
wonder. You don't have to.
Better than angels.
Just listen to Animwaa. And tell us
He
about
brings
her.
the presence down.
I saw the fly and I was wondering, I know this girl.
It's me.
Okay. Tell us about this.
So it's a song that's about 36 years old, and I've been waiting for God to give the green light, and then finally He did. So I thought, I'm turning 40 on Saturday, so I thought, why not do it before? Kind of like to say, thank you to God for everything. So yeah. So Friday,
you know the spiritual side
I'll
of
be
Animwaa.
here.
Now you know.
Oh, I saw her in church once. Oh my God.
You saw me in church.
I saw her in church once.
You see, wasting wine.
She's not the ordinary church member. Oh, she
leads praise and worship and everything.
Beyond that,
really, she
reading
brings the presence down.
Oh my goodness, I was
So anyway, so it will be released.
See,
Friday
no man
morning.
after the flesh. See what Wasting is doing.
Absolutely.
You will get to heaven and she's
the
there.
Holy Ghost descended. The Holy Ghost.
It wasn't because of me, though.
There's a certain lady who just got overpowered by the
yes,
by the
that's
Spirit.
what happens with the Spirit.
Why is Winston here?
What?
Yes, Wasting.
The song is 36 years old.
Yes.
Okay. When she was 4 years.
No, please. I didn't say I wrote it when I was
No, I'm just, it's clarification.
But we understand. What's your problem?
No, I don't understand.
You know?
It's a very old
tomorrow
song.
morning, then you ask.
It's
Have you
a
heard Child
very
Prodigy?
a very old
You know
song.
that? Yeah.
Can we move on? So
but what's the title of the song?
Yes,
though?
sorry, we worship you.
Yes, sorry.
So it's out Friday morning on The Reason Is Jesus, and I'll be on the Super Morning Show as well. I'll be on Showbiz A to Z on Saturday, and then we'll continue. So I'll be on the probe, so you'll hear it over and over and over.
Please.
No, this evening on Strong and Sassy, though, we are talking about the art of personal branding. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
But I love the branding on this.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Go on my Facebook and check it out if you're wondering what Evans and
Animwaa
Emma are going on about. But thank you guys
up with
so
Strong
much.
and Sassy.